In a small village surrounded by dusty roads and dry fields lived a young boy named Ethan. He was only 12 years old, but life had already made him older than his age. Ethan had no parents, no one to protect him, no one to wait for him at home. He lived in a tiny clay house with a leaking roof. When it rained, he placed bowls on the floor to catch the water. When it was cold, he wrapped himself in an old blanket and whispered prayers to stay warm. The villagers knew Ethan, but few cared. Some ignored him. Some spoke harshly. Only a few showed kindness. Every morning, Ethan worked in the market. He carried baskets, cleaned stalls, and ran small errands. Some days he earned food. Some days only tired hands and an empty stomach.
But every night, before sleeping, Ethan closed his eyes and spoke to God. God, I don't have much, but please stay with me. I am scared of being alone. One evening, after a long day, Ethan counted his earnings. Just one small coin. With that coin, he could buy a piece of bread. It wouldn't fill his stomach, but it would keep him alive. As he walked toward the bakery, he noticed an old woman sitting near the road. Her clothes were torn, and her hands trembled. "Child," she said softly, "have you eaten today?" Ethan stopped. His stomach burned with hunger. That coin was everything he had. He looked at the woman's eyes. They were filled with pain and hope. Slowly, Ethan placed the coin in her hand. "Please buy something warm," he said quietly. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "May God reward you, my son," she whispered. Ethan walked away hungry, but strangely peaceful. That night, Ethan slept with an empty stomach. But before closing his eyes, he smiled and prayed. "God, I gave what little I had. I hope you saw me." The next morning, Ethan awoke to loud voices outside. A cart had broken down near his house. A merchant stood worried, surrounded by spilled goods. "Can anyone help me?" the man shouted. Ethan ran forward. He helped lift boxes, fix the wheel, and clean the road. His small hands worked fast and honestly. The merchant watched silently. When the cart was fixed, the man reached into his bag and handed Ethan a pouch. "Take this, you earned it." Inside were coins, bread, and fruit. Ethan's hands shook. "This is too much," he said. The merchant smiled. Kindness returns, always. Days passed. Ethan found steady work with the merchant. He learned to read numbers, count money, and speak confidently. The boy who slept hungry now slept with hope. One evening, Ethan saw the old woman again. She stood near the bakery, healthy and smiling. She looked at him and said gently, "Do you remember me?" "Yes," Ethan replied. She leaned closer and whispered, "God heard your prayer." For a moment, her face seemed brighter, warmer, and then she walked away into the crowd. Ethan stood still, his heart full. From that day on, Ethan believed something deeply. God never ignores a kind heart. Even a single coin given with love can change a life. Message for the listener. Maybe you feel unseen. Maybe you are tired of giving without receiving. But remember this: God sees the smallest kindness. God hears the quietest prayer. And what you give with sincerity returns in ways you never expect. You are never alone.